Hello everyone, welcome to our interview with the Masters featuring concept artist and designer Justin Pichetrungsi. This interview is brought to you by CGMA. CGMA is an online art academy dedicated to helping students become better artists through the instruction of industry professionals in the field of entertainment. Before we begin, I would like to let everyone know Justin is one of our instructors for our Fundamentals of Design class this term, our winter term. So we'll be accepting new students for another week, so if you want to sign up and join our community, be sure you do so as soon as possible to secure your seat. So to the audience, welcome, and please feel free to ask questions for Justin throughout the session and we can answer them for you. Justin, thank you so much for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and give you presenter so you can, share with us where you're at, where you've been, inspirations, all the good stuff. So,
Sure.
Thank you, presenter. There we go.
Great. Share my screen. All right, cool. Hi. Well, thanks for having me, Allison.
Yeah, no problem.
It's great to be here. This is one of the first kinds of things that I've done that's like a phone interview where I screen share and broadcast my stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Pretty fun. Yeah, pretty fun. Yeah, so where should we start? Would you like to see
well,
some
we
work
can start off with, let's see what you've been up to. Like, where have you been working and
Sure.
where are you working now?
Right. All right. Well, my name's Justin. I am currently a concept designer at Disney Interactive Worlds. So that's we're active. It's a small little group, and we do worlds for Disney properties and a couple original properties as well. And basically, it's games. So really fun. Get to work with some great 3D modelers, texture artists, game designers, and art directors, and people that are really passionate about making games. And a lot of the stuff we're doing is mobile games. A lot of the stuff we're doing is online games, as well as some MMO development work. And those are really fun.
Very
and
cool.
I've been
That's
there.
awesome.
I've been there for about 2.5 years. Before there, I actually also worked at Disney Imagineering R&D, and we also worked on a pretty fun game over there for a brief stint. And I bounced around, working at freelance for different studios, doing storyboarding, doing design, doing movie pitches, and just having a blast in entertainment. I love films. I happen to spend most of my time designing games and teaching too. So.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I also teach at Art Center College of Design, digital painting class, and that's also super fun. Since a lot of people know me as a painter, even though that's just one small part of what I do.
That's fantastic. Sounds like you're very, very busy.
Very busy, yeah.
That's cool.
And I graduated Art Center, just if you guys are curious, I graduated Art Center in entertainment design. My undergraduate was in entertainment design at Art Center, and that's the design for film, video game, feature animation, 2D animation, theme park. It's a wide range of, design that's imaginative based, that's not necessarily an industrial design focused output. Although the way that the curriculum is set up is that we learn a lot of industrial design first. So a lot of my personal foundation starts with industrial design, and building on top of that with painting. I then went back to Art Center and studied film in the broadcast cinema department, and completed my master's there a couple of years ago, just before starting at Disney Interactive. So that was really fun too.
Cool.
Yeah.
And when did you start Disney Interactive?
That was before. I was still doing my master's, so it was like in 2011.
Oh, okay,
was
cool.
when I started, or mid 2011. And was a fantastic experience starting, because I was with a bunch of a bunch of friends who were also working on the same project, and they were all from Art Center as well. So we were able to bond and work together really well, and learn. So in a kind of a competitive, like friendly competitive atmosphere, we learned a lot, a tremendous amount. And just a little fun fact, one of your teachers, Dave Merritt, is where I met him at this job. First started just getting out of school.
Oh, awesome.
And he sat right next to me, and he was the one that reached out to me about looking into you guys. And we're very good friends.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. And also Jason Louie, who is the lecture teacher for the Design Fundamentals course.
Mm-hmm.
He's been a good friend since I started at Art Center in transportation design, and he worked at Disney Interactive when we were there in North Hollywood. It was a lot of fun, just having all the friends around us.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's fantastic. So neat. So we don't really have any questions from the audience yet.
Okay.
So let's go into seeing some of your some of your personal work and some of the work that you can show from, you were working at Disney, Sony, propaganda games. Any of that stuff would be really cool. We'd like to see your work.
Cool, yeah. One of the first things that I was really blessed with is an internship opportunity that I got with Scott Robertson, and Scott Robertson has been a great mentor of mine, and he did this project with me and a few friends called Alien Race, Visual Development of Intergalactic Adventure. So on this internship, it was the second internship I did with him, and it was, again, a group of tightly knit friends that wanted to come together and start designing out a property, and it was really fun because it was pretty much free reign. So during Art Center, we were able to get our work published, and I'll show you a little bit of some of the work that we did in there. I did a lot of drawing back in the day. Now a lot of what I do is go straight into painting, but I still like starting out with drawing. It's fun. It's tactile. Just started picking up these really fun sketchbooks by Cottonwood Arts, and doing more life drawing now. But so when I look at these, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. We used to draw a lot back then. Mm-hmm. So in Alien Race, we did a lot of characters, a lot of creatures, and it was with John Park and Tom Tenery, Peter Chan, and Ben Morrow, all like over a summer or two, and we just kind of tackled different areas that we wanted to deal with in terms of this story. And some people gravitated towards environments, so that's where their strengths were, like Tom. And some people did some creatures, and guys like Peter did creatures. He was amazing. And now he works at Sony. They're all doing fantastic now.
That's awesome.
So I really enjoy doing creature work, just because it's like, as long as you know like basic human anatomy and just some basics of animal anatomy, you can start to push and pull proportions, left or right, longer arms, shorter arms, and basically it's still fundamentally like a human skeleton. So I found it pretty fun. Once you understand the fundamentals, you're able to really have a great time designing.
It's cool. I like your animals. They're awesome. Or creatures are just interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, we kind of look at a reference of like a frog or something and see how we can kind of, contort it and distort it into something more fantastical. And of course, with entertainment design, playing of scale is really fun. And cool. Something that Scott Robertson wanted to do, and he wanted to focus on was, and he's always focused on, is the understanding of process and how to do new kinds of things. So there were some really interesting ways that we design creatures in that book, not just with drawing, but things using a process using photo booth and custom brushes. Like these are all things that I was just starting to understand, in my early development.
Cool. How was it like working with Scott?
Oh yeah, Scott's amazing. I mean, he even to this day is still like the most prolific person that I know. Like always changing, always fundamental, always interested in sharing. And I think having teachers like him and Neville Page and Bob Cotto and Nick Pugh, these guys were really interested in sharing, and it's kind of what got me into to eventually starting to teach, because it's like you can't keep all this painting knowledge and to yourself. You just want to share. You're just so enthusiastic about making things that you can't help but kind of show other people, like, oh hey, like you could use this and do this and use this brush and try out this thing, and it's kind of fun. It helps for the development of our craft and our industry, and it's a good friendly competition.
Yeah, it also kind of reinforces what you already know, because when you repeat it over and explain it to somebody else, something that you kind of, your own technique, it kind of, can give you another idea for another technique, or, kind of back up your information that you already have.
Oh yeah, that's one of the most interesting things about staying in touch with mentors from school, is that now that we're starting to teach the things that they had taught us years ago, you kind of forgot where the source is, like, oh, who is it that taught this or taught that? And then you see it again, you're like, wow. It's extremely validating as a teacher to see that it had started from somewhere, and a lot of these design fundamentals, I mean, they go back to the time of like Da Vinci, like light physics and visual physics. It's very old school, and it's just been passed down on and on and on. So those fundamentals, I guess, they'll never change, and the techniques always change. Like we would have done this in using paint or acrylic or gouache, but now we're using digital. Now we're using 3D. This is actually a very simple. These last couple ones. These are all like pencil first, just kind of like using these, and then painting underneath the line on a multiply layer, and then eventually gaining enough confidence. Yeah, just to get the shading, block out the silhouette, and then eventually you gain enough confidence to paint over the line. So you'll start to see, the line still stays in some places, which is fine. It's a little sketchy. It's just a quick sketch, but then you start to paint over the line as well. And here is like it's a little heavy-handed with the painting, but
I like it.
Thanks.
Cool.
So this was a pretty fun story. It was really really basic premise. Like, let's see what happens if there was an intergalactic space race using, like genetically modified creatures or creatures from another world, beings from another world racing them. So kind of like that's the big draw with entertainment design, concept design, is that you're not restricted to a specific kind of anatomy or rule. You can kind of break it up. Like, I kind of thought that eyelid, could go over the entire iris, maybe because they're going into dust, and this is kind of like a nictating membrane that would constantly be cleaning the cornea, or something like that. And you kind of make up these fun little, like, Darwinian reasoning for this or that, or this is kind of like a wildebeest, I don't know, a tuft of hair, or if let's see if the tendon that comes off of some of these quadrupeds, if there was enough, the thinness of the skin was enough so that you could actually pierce it, just some, you know, some weird things. And here's a piece where we kind of combined some of the creatures that other people did, and you can actually see I placed in Scott's creatures in the background, and these are some of mine, and it's like one or two of Tom's back there. And just yeah, and just you know, designing out a scene where you can have stuff in it, and that's my favorite, is that you can make something feel cinematic by having, you know, having character business or environmental business, and by business I mean just things happening and stuff's on the floor and in the sky, and you know, the lights blooming, and it all makes painting a lot more fun and makes it very rewarding to finish.
Cool.
So yeah, this is a fun little quick painting.
So we have a couple of questions from the
Yeah.
audience. So we have one from Theron, and the question is, your characters look awesome. I have a problem with figure drawing and I've struggled with it my whole life. Do you draw every day? And what do you recommend in getting better at figure drawing for character design?
Oh, that's a good question. Figure drawing is one of those things that, you know, if you've heard that idea that Malcolm Gladwell wrote in his book, which is that you have to commit 10,000 hours before you master a simple task. 10,000 hours turns out to be like 10 years of committed work, you know, 40 to 50 hours a week, you know. And I was counting it. When I started figure drawing, I was 13 years old. I was doing nude figure drawing at the Valley Art Institute in Canoga Park, and it was a blast, but I had no clue what I was doing. And it wasn't until many years later I was taking figure drawing with Daniel Galeotti, and the specific kind of figure drawing that I find the most useful isn't the one that focuses on gesture, and isn't the one that's super focused on just muscles or bones, or is very analytical figure as a study is kind of breaking down the body into its anatomy, but then how to actually physically draw that with like basic shapes, and just understanding the mechanics of an arm or a shoulder girdle and why it looks that way, and what's happening with the forms because the muscle underneath is interacting with the bone. And I feel like a combination of having an analytical knowledge of things, not just figure drawing, but anything, but if you're just to take figure drawing, if you take the analytical approach and you meet that with some good practice, you'll most likely, you'll eventually get there. Right now I figure draw about once a week. We have a fantastic workshop at Disney with the instructor Bob Cotto, who's been running the drawing workshop, and a bunch of fantastic animators and consumer products designers. They go, and a very small workshop. And he just came out with a book called The Drawing Workshop, and you can see examples of what people do. They're like costume workshops, and it forces you to draw what you see first, but then eventually you'll kind of get bored of drawing what you see. Like, you're too slavish to your observation. And once you get bored with being slavish to your observation, you're going to start to break away from that and say, you know what, wouldn't it be fun if this guy had a huge head and his cape was like really long and he had this kind of attitude? And people will come over and be like, I didn't see that at all. Where did you get that from? You were totally embellishing. That's not what I saw. I said, yeah, well, you know, that's what I wanted to see. So it becomes fun when, after you've understood all the analytical side of figure drawing, which is very technical, and you can start to improv off of that. And, you know, you don't have to worry about, oh, how does the gastrocnemius work, and how do I draw it in this angle, that angle, this angle, and you'll eventually riff off of it. I think my advice would be to take an analytical figure drawing class, and there's a couple guys that I really like, if you can find any of Daniel Galeotti's work online, that's probably who I would go to. Ray Bustos is also a fantastic analytical instructor. Um, and
Yeah, Ray, he's with us. He's with us at CGMA.
my God, I mean, and you see those écorchés that come out of his class, and the people that do it, they're always like, oh my God, it's like, it's so hard, right? I mean, it's it's a pain in the butt because you got to sculpt each muscle using Sculpey, but then you realize what you're doing is you're like building a human from the bone to the flesh, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like when my instructor Danny said to me, he was like, the way to understand muscles was I finally did cadaver dissections. And he was like,
Oh,
as a figure drawing artist, you have to do cadaver dissection. I haven't done it, but he
oh
was
my
like saying,
gosh.
yeah, you know, and then you start to move the muscle a little on the arm, and you see that it moves the finger, and you're like,
Whoa.
oh, that's how it works. That's why that's there. Yeah, very intense. And he would say, you know what, like I would go to he would go to the Louvre, and he would say, oh, let me get the facsimile copy of this Da Vinci or that Michelangelo, and then he would get the facsimile copy, and then he would sketch there so that he could see it as close as possible. And you can actually do that. Some museums will allow you to do that, which is pretty fun.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Holy crap. Let's see, hold on. I think we have another question. So somebody is asking about your personal project time. Are you planning on launching an IP or like any kind of personal work soon?
Yeah, that's you know, that's a great question because with a full-time gig and also teaching on the side, it's hard to find time for personal projects. But I'm always working towards it, and I'm always trying to find ways that I can have like a process that works well with me. And sometimes it means like I gotta work before I get to work, or I gotta work right after I get out of work in order to do that. I definitely have plans for a couple of my own personal portfolio projects. Um, right now, there's like 3 that I'm kind of doing simultaneously. Eventually, one is going to have to take precedence over the other. But I think that if this is one of the biggest challenges for anybody that's working in the industry. It's very easy to work in the industry and not have your own project, and eventually just kind of forget, like you forget that you're an artist, you know. And I'm sure you know this, but it's like if you don't make time for it, you don't make time for it. And like when we're in school, like think about how fun it was because we were our own art director, we were our own production designer, we were our own director, and we were our own concept artist at the same time. You know, we owned every part of that project. And when you get into the industry, you find out that, well, your ego can't be that big. You know, you're working in the team. But when you get home, it can be as big as you want, you know. You can take all that creative energy and put it into your own project. So yeah, no, I'm always doing that for my other class at Art Center. I assign like for them to develop their own intellectual property, and all the projects that we do in class will always follow that specific intellectual property that we pitch at the very beginning. I'm very intrigued by fashion and fashion design. Before getting to Art Center, I did consider a career in fashion design or fashion illustration, and I got a really awesome scholarship to Parsons, which I turned down because I always wanted to go to Art Center. But I feel like if I was to have done that, then I would have gone into fashion. So I feel like my next project is going to have to do with clothes. It's going to be sort of style heavy. It's going to be very like wearable things
That's
heavy.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, fashion's really interesting. I worked in the
Yeah.
fashion industry for a little bit, and
Yeah.
it's
Awesome.
quite Yeah, it was quite different than working in like 3D gaming industry kind of thing, because a lot of the people are their mindsets are very different. Some of them are very competitive, and
Right.
it's interesting. Um,
I hear that so much.
yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's okay that I'm not in that industry. I can have a lot more control, you know, painting a costume now than I can being in some sort of big creative house,
Hmm.
uh, you know. But some of my
Um,
favorite fashion designers like Alexander McQueen, John Galliano, like,
mhm.
the very extravagant, very theatrical, they've always felt like, if they did entertainment design, like they would rock it. So I kind of want to think about what would my portfolio be like if I was one of them.
Mhm.
Be crazy.
It would be really crazy.
Yeah,
Profitable too. Like fashion is
maybe.
pretty profitable. I would
Yeah.
imagine. I mean, if you design a very good, you know, piece for a big designer, I don't know.
Oh yeah, that would be awesome. Oh, I was also going to mention, and you can see this on my website. It's a small little tab of my fashion photo work, which most of those projects are either styled by me or styled by my girlfriend. And um, and photography finds its way into my work now, but that's one of my big passions aside from painting, aside from the other 2D art.
Hmm. That's cool. So do you there's another question here about your your technique and stuff.
Sure.
Do you prefer drawing pencil and then doing Photoshop? Um, and that being said, would you recommend being masterful in a program like Photoshop? And how do you think that, I mean, I would say yes, just because of the state of the industry is all primarily digital, but what are your thoughts
Yeah.
on that?
Yeah. No, I have to agree because you're gonna have to know. I mean, Photoshop should kind of be like learning how to draw, or you learning how to use a pencil or learning how to use gouache. It's just another medium. But you can see like this and this and this. A lot of the alien race work that you see here is very focused on drawing first and then painting underneath. And I feel like at this part of my personal development, that's kind of where I needed to be because I wasn't yet super nimble with the brush as I was with the pencil. I was still much more confident with the pencil than I was with the brush. And even though I had been painting for a while, and I feel like it's still always a lot easier to design in pencil compared to designing in paint because in paint you're dealing with all surfaces at the same time and lighting scenarios and value breakups and texture and your brain has to do so much more processing power. And I'm always telling my students, look, your brain, well, while doing one piece of art, is trying to juggle all these things: value, color, temperature, composition, gestures, and all the while, like, is it telling us the story? And sometimes that gets lost, and then all fails. So
Hmm.
I say if it helps you break your process down to, let me first think about the design. And when I think about the design, let me just think about the side view of the design like this. Then let me think about it in front view. Then let me think about the design in terms of the surfaces and the surface textures and the secondary details. And then when you get into painting, let me think about just the values first. Are the values reading? Are the darks reading? So I always say, if you're going to do one step of painting or one step of design, just think, okay, I'm just doing the darks. Do the darks. Do the darks. So your brain doesn't get sidetracked and doing other things. Do the darks. Do the lights. Do the lights. Do the lights. All right, core shadows, core shadows, core shadows, core shadows, core shadows. And then you get into color. And it's like, okay, warms, 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 and then cools, 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 cools. That way your brain doesn't try to juggle so many things at the same time. Um, but to bring it back to the question, I think Photoshop for sure, that should be part of your arsenal. Um, a lot of my buddies now, they're super well versed in a 3D program as well, either Cinema 4D or ZBrush or Maya, and they may have like a deep understanding of it, but I think starting out, you can realize that just a simple understanding of some 3D programs will get you enough to kind of get you to understand and talk to other people about it and talk to your team about it. And yeah, how much do I draw now? Like, man, I wish I could draw more. I wish I could draw more. But it's only one small percentage of the work that I'm doing currently. Did I answer that question okay?
Yeah, you totally did.
Yeah.
Sorry, I realized I muted myself.
No worries.
So, let's see. I'm trying to see if anybody else has a question that's along the subject that we're talking about.
Sure.
So when you do your designs, do you do a lot of, like, how much research do you feel is required to get a point across and to help you understand what it is, you're trying to interpret within this design?
Yeah, good question. Research is super important because we kind of only know what we can see in our heads. So at work, I've got like 2 monitors set up, and one monitor is only reference all the time, just reference. And it's either reference from an existing IP that Disney's doing, in which our game is going to be modeled after that specific IP, which means we have to see the film. We have to know the characters. We have to know what the models look like, unlit. We have to know what the models look like lit. We have to know what they're referencing, and we have to know what artists they're referencing and what parts of the world they're referencing when they're thinking about this kind of architecture or that kind of architecture. So I feel like the answer is as much as it takes, but not enough that it prevents you from actually working, And I do like to start off a lot of my pieces without any reference first, just so that I can see what my head comes up with, and then I try to go deep into like Pinterest or something where I can say like, oh, like I'm doing a personal thing on like Eastern body modification. And yeah, like I know some of the things about Eastern body modification, like some tribes, they put the plate in the lip, or they've elongated their neck. But then I saw some stuff that I had no clue. Like I didn't know that you could elongate or stretch out or punch a hole through that part of your body. But that way my thoughts are pure, and then I look at the research, and then I have the research kind of inform my original thoughts too. So I would say as much as possible. I know some people, they'll spend way too much time on research, and while they're researching, somebody else that researched just enough, they had already finished a painting, and because it's fun and you can go like super deep, super deep. I know sometimes I remember in school I had a buddy named Shay Schatz, and when he would want to research something, he'd fill out a whole sketchbook of just that one thing, like helmets, and you have a whole sketchbook of just helmets. And
that's kind of awesome.
Yeah, and that way you put together the form language of everything that's out there into a book, and it's in your hand. It's like stored, it's downloaded into your hand, and you can pull that out whenever you want. Even years later, you can pull that out. So I recommend not just like passively getting research, but actively like absorbing it, either through drawing the research and filling out a sketchbook, or taking pictures. And taking pictures is kind of like, that's another thing where you feel like it's passive and you're not drawing it, but just by the virtue of like you looking at it and then recording it, and somewhere it exists on your computer perhaps, that also really helps too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Any other questions right now?
I think people want to see more of your stuff.
Let's do it.
So feel free to show more stuff, because you have some great work.
Yeah, sure. So let's see. I'll just quickly scan through these. Some of my storyboarding work that I've done for famous and anonymous, like commercials, and these are commercial pitches where I get to work one-on-one with the director. The thing that I like to do in my boards that don't get done in some other boards is that I like to flesh them out with just a little bit of value, just a quick value pass. And I'll always sit down with the director and make sure to get everything done in terms of the shot and what kind of feeling they're looking for. This current one, this set that you're looking at right now is for the Dove Real Beauty commercial, which my friend John Kerry is the director for. Is a beautiful commercial, and I had the pleasure of working with him on it. Really fun. So really sketchy, really quick, but I try to keep them to like 20 minutes for line and value total, and then you got to move on. And this is another one that I had done with him on Expedia commercial. And so this is where my my knowledge of film and knowledge of blocking and camera angles and storytelling really comes in handy, because you got to do these quick compositions really quickly to kind of tell a story, and then you got to move on. And it helps. It also helps to understand a little bit about cinematography and, you know, how something is lit really basically, and you know how to get a character to pop against a really busy background, or how to block, you know, basically.
Are these 20, did you say 20 minutes per panel, or for the entire board that you're doing? Like, how fast are these being?
So each one of these images that you're seeing is 20 minutes.
Okay.
So it's not a lot of time. I mean, you can see how rough they are, but only because, you know, you're getting paid per panel, or you're getting paid per day, so you gotta pump it out. There's a lot of stuff. So yeah, and this was one for the Hawks, which was pretty fun. I like doing sports boards. Those are all really glossy. And this is some.
Oh, that's
really
cool.
This is some work that I did for the Indy Racing League.
It almost looks like traditional, but it's
It looks traditional, yeah. The brush here that's used is like only one brush. It's called the brush. I named it. I named it Peter, named after my friend who would use this brush all the time.
Oh my
but
God.
you can find this brush in Photoshop. It's one of the natural brushes, and it's a size 12. And the silhouette has a little triangle and a couple dots, and it gives a very like hairy, scratchy texture. And you know, the prompt for this project was, can we come up with a better way to showcase the Indy 500? So they flew us out there, and we got to see the race and help imagine what we feel could be a really epic way to present this race to the world.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, so these are, you know, quick storyboards to kind of explain what's going on and what the future of the celebration or the ceremony could be. And these ones, you know, before the boards that you saw, they were kind of like, they were drawn first, and then these ones are just kind of treated as like speed paintings. And then here's I'll show some of this stuff. I'm sure some people have seen on the site, but a lot of times I'll find myself doing speed paintings just to stay loose, and it's a great little exercise to do with friends, especially in the office. It's a great way to have a little bit of competition. Like, okay, we got 15 minutes. This is the prompt. Go. And it's great to see what people do, and you can kind of ask questions like, oh, how did you come up with that technique, or what brush did you use there? And that kind of keeps things fresh, because when you're working alone, you're working from home, and there's no one to compete with. Sometimes you feel like, I wish I had a buddy here. So
Yeah.
a lot of these are done in like a stressful prompt-like scenario.
Hmm.
um, so these are all personal. The way that I like to paint, I love custom brush work, and creating my own custom brushes, taking photography for custom brushes, and then building them into my brush library, which I'll show you guys a little bit later when I do like a quick little demo. Let's see
Cool.
what time do we have? How
Well,
much
we
more
have
time
about
do we have?
15 minutes, so if you wanted
Okay,
to,
sure. We're gonna yeah. We'll just blaze through this, and then for example, the custom brushes used here is only like 2 or 3 trees plus a brush for a helicopter.
you have a
um,
helicopter brush.
you gotta have one. You gotta have one.
It's just
You don't
funny.
have you don't have a helicopter brush? Shame on you. Everyone should
Okay.
have one. Um, the fun thing about custom brush is that it's like a random generated technique. So
Hmm.
we can you can get forms and details that you could have never got if you didn't make that brush. You know, it's because your hand has a muscle memory.
Hmm.
So anyways, these are there's more and more and more. But if you don't have a helicopter brush, I don't know. Like that's the
I'm not
first
gonna make
question.
it.
Not, you have to now.
I'm not
I'll
gonna
give
make
you
it.
mine. I'll give you
Oh,
mine.
that's so sweet.
I'll give you mine. So
Thank you.
I'm always trying to experiment with like brushes, and I think brushes can lead to really interesting form language. And in the end, as a designer, it's really about, can you understand form language in a way where you can dissect it and then apply it to all aspects of design, character, creature, vehicle, prop. So I think with the time that we have left, I'll jump into
Okay, great.
it. But yeah, I'll just show you really quickly one of the ways that I like to experiment. This is like a huge painting that I have.
Oh,
It's so this looks like just a bunch of like garbage. Like it's like if Jackson Pollock was to discover Photoshop is kind of what I was
oh
thinking.
my
But
God.
it's but so it's big. It's like 7,000 pixels, right? It actually could be bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you actually zoom in here, oh, you zoom in here, and I'm gonna like this is a compilation of a bunch of different a bunch of different brushes just stamped everywhere. But you can see if you kind of like scoot back, you can kind of see that in some areas, and this will kind of help a little bit, I think, if I draw a little. You can see like within different. Oh, can I make this darker? Within different environments, I can crop like a little frame, and you can get all sorts of interesting compositions just from the one image. So you can see like, oh, this kind of looks like a huge building here, and then something in the background, and maybe some like meteors coming down or something like that. Or maybe we can change this to like something like this, and this kind of looks like there's like a cliff edge, and like there's a ship taking off here. Kind of looks like a Star Destroyer, and a huge like environment of, you know, bigger post-apocalyptic buildings back there. So this is kind of like a fun way that I like to get loose, and the compositions that I can get here, where you can start to see, oh, this could be a foreground, and that could be a background, like mountain. There could be a structure impaled onto the side of this cliff edge. And the more time you kind of put into this experimentation, like the more you're going to have to draw from it, and you can draw like a lot from it. So like if I actually kind of expand this, and you can see, oh, there's my helicopter again.
Oh my God.
Um,
It's
it's everywhere.
crashing.
It's crashing. It's coming down. I mean, this kind of looks like it's just it's like Sydney Opera House right here. It's like, what if this city just like overgrew with all this stuff and we could flip this guy around. But you can see it's kind of fun, and as long as you have like atmosphere and depth and some good contrast in certain areas, you can get some really fun effects. Here's a little like little Rebel fighter brush that I made for a Disney project.
That's awesome.
But yeah, this is not too dissimilar to a technique that Scott has showed us in the past. And you can actually take that same idea and apply it to creatures. You know, custom brushes, and this is just one custom brush stamped in a variety of different ways using different scales. And the custom brush here, actually, if you zoom in here, you see there's a face there. There's a girl here wearing like a dress, and she's got this like hair, right? And what I did was I just made that brush, and she's everywhere here. She's like, so we'll actually look there. She's actually skewed this way.
Well, it's really weird.
It's really weird, right? But then now we zoom out, and it looks like tech, and these look like there's some sort of like hitches or loops. You know, you can imagine eyes or whatever. And so you can actually see, I'll stamp this brush so you guys can kind of see how it behaves. So there she is. So you can see the silhouette of it. And let me hide this guy. So sometimes I'll take like my marker sketches, and like I said, I'm really like into fashion, so I'll do like a little marker sketch, or actually this is a digital sketch that I did using a brush that kind of mimics marker, and I turned it into a stamp, right? So this brush alone isn't going to do much for you, but once you start to modify this brush, and this, if you just open up your brush modifier window here, and you click on Shape Dynamics, and let's see, we just introduce a little bit of angle jitter. And you can set the control to like initial direction or even direction. And you can just play with a bunch of these things. Maybe flip X jitter, flip Y jitter. And just, so let's try it. So now, instead of it being a simple brush where it's just stamping, I'm getting a specific pattern that's actually reacting to the direction of my brush. So, you know, you can do a variety of things. You know, you can build out an environment with a brush like this, and you know, it's kind of fun because it's got an inherent form language in it already, right? And maybe we can use like just for some scale here. Right? I mean, it's really silly, but this brush has some kind of form that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's cool.
It's weird. It's weird. I mean, and now you can actually paint on top of this and, you know, select some of the forms that you really like. You know, I mean, it's kind of funky, but there you go. Or what we could do is we can see if we can, maybe we'll turn this to initial direction or rotation. So with rotation, it's actually interacting with how I'm rotating the tablet. So we'll try.
Are you using like a Cintiq or a Wacom?
No. This is just with a Wacom. And just to let you know, I'm using an Intuos 4.
Okay.
And but the pen that allows you to actually rotate is the Art pen. Not all pens will actually let you do this.
Oh, really? So wait, is it a Wacom specific pen, or is it a mode inside of Photoshop?
No, it's a Wacom specific pen.
Whoa, no way. That's crazy.
Yeah, so now I can. Yeah. And
That
you know what?
changes a lot.
I realized this on like by accident.
Mhm.
And I got my art director to buy the whole team art pens because I was like for example, with this rotation, if I use one of my drawing brushes, right, and this is a very simple brush, but now I can have thick, thin, go in any direction that I want. Before all this, you would have to go to brush tip shape and rotate it this way if you wanted to go that way and rotate it this way if you want to go that way. But now I can get that thick, thin whenever I want.
Oh my gosh.
Revolutionary.
I need it. I need it now.
No, you said no to the helicopter brush,
No,
so
I need that. I need the art pen. That's amazing.
so
Oh.
I'll just show you how to like do a quick little character here.
Whoa. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. The cool thing about character is, actually that's kind of cool, I'll save that. Cool thing about character is all you really need to do is have a symmetrical form. So if you just have some wild gestures like this and you just make sure it's symmetrical, and changing the scale a little bit. Oops. So a little unpredictable.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't tell what's actually going to happen.
I think it's because your flip your
it's
brush.
going crazy. Yeah, it's going crazy. It's going crazy. But you also don't want to try to force it because part of the joy is that you don't know how it's going to turn out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you make a little custom brush like this, like don't force yourself to make something that you already know how to make. Like let it give you a happy accident.
Yeah,
So.
I think that's what kind of making new designs is all about. It's just kind of doing things that people would not expect and just making it work in a way, like, and then like developing it.
Right.
It's interesting because it's like it's kind of like, how do you say that? It's like a pioneering thing where you're
Oh
going
yeah.
where no man has gone before to create something that no one has ever seen. And it's such a crazy thing to do, but in order to do it successfully, you have to do it in the weirdest, way that you can think of.
Oh
Right.
right,
Look at the
exactly.
most interesting result from it. It's cool because
Exactly.
I'm seeing it happen right here. You're using a really weird brush, doing really weird things with it, but I already see where it's going, and I'm like, that's awesome. So it's very interesting.
Sure, yeah, no, I think back to what Aaron Sorkin, the screenwriter, said. He was like, remember, the first person through the wall always gets hurt, and I feel like that with art, like you got to take the risk, and you know you're going to fail. The beauty of Photoshop is that taking a risk doesn't require any loss of material or monetary value of paint or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can easily delete this. I never invested any money into it.
Right.
But what I can do is I can fail and make as many failures as possible. And it's just a numbers game. I mean, something's going to turn out good. I mean, it should.
Yeah.
It's like with something like this, now that we have it symmetrical, now I can start to say, oh, you know what I see? I kind of see something like this or like that, and maybe this is too much here. Like I can actually take this out, and we can start to see a little bit of, and I can paint with like a regular brush here, like a big round or something really simple. We have like 2 minutes left here, but you'll start to see once you put in. Once you put in legs and like a little ground plane here, I mean, it's all good, because you'll be able to, your mind will be able to kind of fill it in and say, oh yeah, that's kind of like this, or that's kind of like that, or I can kind of imagine, and maybe, forget that thing. That thing was bad. Or this kind of looks like a crab claw. Maybe I can, that could be like a part of the leg, or it can be some sort of armored suit of some kind. And just building now on top of it, and you're treating it like a Rorschach test in a way. It's your own personal, like, what can you find in it? And then I kind of see that it looks like there's a person right here.
Yeah,
like
it looks like there's some kind of weird Evangelion stuff.
Oh, yes,
no,
yes.
weird as, but like, I feel like it's sci-fi Geiger, sorry, stuff.
Right. So then we can, once you put it in a face, and we have in legs, let's start to flesh it out a little bit. Maybe take this out. And you can see a lot of that face, that body, it's still there, right? But eventually, you'll paint it all out, and it'll be gone. But this could be a kind of a fun little thing. If you actually look at Neville's work on his website, Neville Page, the work that he did for Super 8, he did a bunch of like lasso technique. He just did a bunch of lasso, and then he would mirror it, and then use that as inspiration for the creature.
That's cool.
In Super 8, yeah. So, and then you can start to we'll flatten this, or I'll put on another layer, and then you can use like a brush with a little bit of dodge applied to it. Let's see if I still have it, please. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just go to building 30 and go color dodge. You can assign a blending mode to a brush. Just pick like a warmish color, and actually, maybe not a warmish color. And then start to just shade, Start to actually think about the form now, not as 2D, but as 3D. Start to flesh things out a little. Yeah, are there any other questions that you may have?
No, I think pretty much covered as many questions as I can fit in the session. So yeah, we can pretty much wrap it up. But thank you so much for joining us, and thank you to everybody that came out. This was a really cool and interesting session. So glad you guys could make it. I also wanted to let you know that if you guys haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, you can find us. We are CGMW in YouTube. We're going to be posting this interview on there, so be sure to subscribe, and so you can be notified when we have new interview recordings up. Also, one more thing, we will be taking in new students until January 30th. Justin will be having his Fundamentals of Design class available, and yeah, if you're beginner level, looking to break in to the industry, wanting to strengthen your design skills, it's a great class to sign up for, great training, and you'll have a great portfolio to better yourself from. So yeah, thank you all, and keep drawing, stay inspired, and we'll see you guys in the next session.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Justin.